Welcome to Neurodivergency, where neurodivergent voices turn struggle into strength. We're here to break the stigma, dive into truth, and bring you real tools for clarity, healing, and hope. Today's guest is Agne. Agne, thank you so much for being on the podcast. How are
Thank
you?
you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to, have this conversation with you. I'm really good. Thanks.
So, Agne, can you tell us what is your neurodivergent story? What do you relate to, and
Yeah.
what does the journey, what does the comparison look like of what was life like before and what is life like today?
hmm Interestingly, I never knew about this at all, about neurodivergency, until I started doing my work and working with clients who have the clear symptoms and we're diagnosed with everything. And I'm like, I have been going through the same thing since the time I remember, you know. So I kind of, my upbringing, nobody kind of paid attention to these things. Nobody questioned that is out of norm or something. The struggle was normal at the time. So I remember, struggling through my teenage years a lot, like to the point of like communication with others, all the, forgetting details, not being able to express myself fully, all the kind of freaking out when I need to show up somewhere, read out loud or stuff like that, keep the eye contact. There are so many details that I now know that are the kind of symptoms of ADHD or autism and all those things. So I was just like pushing through because that's what we used to do back then. And when I discovered quantum healing and all my work, and I started like understanding the brain function and then the science behind it, I'm like, oh, so I guess my brain is working differently than others, even though I've been on that journey to figure out what's wrong with me and how to fix myself. Just like inside out, that quest was pushing me forward to learn and to understand a lot of things. And my journey a little bit, like quantum healing was the core element that helped me to shift all that. So that inner healing really helped me evolve in so many ways, rewiring the brain. Like I am able to do things that I couldn't imagine possible in the past. So, it's just the magic is possible when you really understand and when you really explore all those things. Yeah.
So you mentioned ADHD and autism. Is that what you identify as having experienced, or
Yeah, well,
are there any
I don't
others?
like labels in general, so I'm not attached to that, but I totally see the symptoms or like, the elements of those tendencies in my experience.
Okay. And what is your experience of life like today?
So today is just like, I'm as if I'm a different person. See, I translated those challenges into superpower in my, because you know, as a healer, I sense energies, I read energy, I pick up on people's thoughts and emotions. I'm like super empathic. And I believe this is part of what ADHD and autism tendencies are. Um, and if I didn't have those traits, I would not be able to do my work and help people the way I can now. Connecting the dots, seeing the core root of the problem as they talk, following the language patterns, recognizing what is, really at the core of the issue. So it is a superpower when you master and when you understand the side effects of it, because yes, still focus is challenging sometimes, and hypersensitivity is another thing to deal with. But when you find the balance and you have tools to ground yourself and to really recognize what's happening internally, it becomes that superpower, and I believe it is basically an evolution of the brain.
Incredible. So, yeah, really having transformed those challenges, reframing them as
Yes,
superpowers and just characteristics of the brain, and also a journey of detaching from the labels themselves, to not be limited by them, but rather just accept yourself as you are, in the same way as having a certain kind of eye color or hair color. It's just, it
that's right.
just is.
Good summary.
Thank you. So if you imagine you would be able to talk to that past version of yourself, and you would be able to give them a speech, they're that young version of you who is struggling with the ADHD and autism tendency symptoms, and they're confused, and they don't know what's going on, what would be that speech?
It's interesting because I get to experience that journey with my own daughter. She's 10, and even at school they're questioning ADHD, so we'll go through all the evaluation eventually. But um, I see, like, she's almost like my mirror. The same challenges, the same patterns. And as I understand that now, I can hold space for her to experience everything. I can support her. I can give her what I didn't receive growing up. So it's almost like the same reflection, and I'm doing my inner child work through her in a way, because supporting and reframing those ideas, like there are a lot of heavy emotions attached through going through those experiences, shame and guilt, and like what's wrong with me and how I'm different and all that. So just reframing that and questioning those limiting thoughts, it's the main element that's necessary. Increasing self-awareness and recognizing I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I am experiencing my thoughts and emotions. I can observe that, acknowledge it, and allow it to flow through me, to release those blocks. Because this age, like, childhood, teenage years, is like the most crucial, because that's where we create those blockages in our body, in our system, um, by all the limitations and those beliefs. And having tools to allow that energy to flow and not be anchored as negative, I think is the biggest gift in that journey.
Incredible. So I'm so excited, but I don't feel that I was on the receiving ends of that speech. How would it be if I was your daughter? Now you've got me excited about the prospect of having kids, and about the prospect of doing that inner work, um, for ourselves through children, and what an opportunity that is, as well as being that loving parent, that loving guide. Now, now imagine I am the daughter, and what would, yeah, what would be an example? Share it, yeah, with me, so that I can feel it.
Yeah, so it's usually a conversation. Um, so when she struggles with something and questions and probably puts herself down a little bit, I'm like, where do you feel those feelings? I am all about emotions and noticing what's happening in the body, and encouraging that you are special, but not in a negative way. You're special because you feel more, you are experiencing more. You can, from the smell, recognize the shapes and things. Like, that normal people don't even understand, but it's beautiful. It's, significant, and just follow those pathways and expressions, um, and accept that as enjoy the magic really that's happening through your brain in the moment, and allow yourself to free flow. Yes, the structure is necessary. Yes, I need to hold space and remind that some things needs to be done, but just be in the moment and experience what's happening without judgment. Because judgment doesn't lead anywhere good. It's just creating blocks, and allow those energies to flow through you. I don't know if that's answering your question
Yeah,
exactly.
so what you're telling me is there's some magic there, and that
Mm,
yes, I'm different than other people, sometimes other people in my class maybe, and
yeah,
it feels difficult, but those feelings are normal, and I shouldn't judge that they're happening, because there is a good side to that. There is the superpower side of it that I'm yet to become more familiar with. Um, but
yeah.
life is hard sometimes. These feelings are hard to deal with. How do I deal with them?
And that's exactly what I'm teaching my kids. Like, if you want the pure strategy, it's very simple, basic, but understanding quantum healing and based in NLP methods, um, I would ask you, where do you feel that feeling in your body? First step is to recognize the emotion, the feeling that's happening. When you recognize, when you name it, then notice where it is in your body. Very intuitively, there is no right or wrong, wherever you feel that. And when let's say you feel it in your heart, then I'm like, if that feeling in your heart had a color or shape, what would that be? And you say the color. And then I invite you to thank that feeling for expressing in this particular color. And just noticing and thanking every expression allows the change to happen. This is how those emotions are shifting, releasing. And in about 10 minutes, like particularly with my daughter, I can help her clear that emotion in a moment. And she's like, oh, that issue wasn't even that big. Like, I feel good now. And she carries on with the day. So having those tools, it's the power,
That sounds like an incredible process, and it really sounds like a way of making something immaterial into something that is much more tangible,
Yeah,
much more felt. And I guess that is the process of processing.
exactly. It allows your brain to reframe that anchor point and release the emotion from being stuck in the body.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. So you've mentioned a little bit about quantum healing, and we have a little bit of a taste, but tell us a bit more about how you found out about quantum healing, and what drew you to it, and a little bit more about it.
What drew it? Um, what drew me to it was really pure magic and my spiritual mission. I have I had no idea about it prior my own spiritual awakening, as I call that. At my journey, I was just going through really big shifts, and I was hoping to discover a tool that I could use and help others to really tap into those experiences, deeper, spiritual experiences. And through a line of beautiful synchronicities, I met the founder of quantum healing, Dick Harbers, about 5 years ago. And we just had a conversation, and I'm like, I know this is what I need to learn and master. And he became my teacher, mentor, and trained me in this modality. And eventually, after his passing, it became my mission to bring this method to the world. Because at the moment, just a couple of practitioners, my students that are using that. And yeah, it's a powerful method to, first of all, understand yourself at a deeper level, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically, and really rewire your system and to function more effectively, more in alignment, mind, body, soul connection, rewiring your brain. Because I also see, neurodivergent expressions as in big way, it's connected to trauma in the past. I question still whether trauma is the source of it or it's just a parallel experience. But your brain gets blocked in certain areas as like some memories are being blocked for you to not experience the trauma constantly, like PTSD responses. So only through the IMAP process, and you have experienced that, Anthony, yourself, I remember. It helps you rewire the brain, clear the blockages, and organize the brain function, the processing mechanism. It allows you to connect to your energy field, like recognize the energies, because people, walking around the world very unaware of their thoughts, their emotions, or especially energy. And you can recognize what's happening in your body energetically if you really master those tools, and yourself really recognizing your thought patterns and your body signals helps to shift that so much. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember going through a few sessions of the quantum healing process, and it was very different to anything that I've experienced before. It had at the same time this therapy element, but it was also having a spiritual, energetic element and a somatic element, which is related to the body, locations in the body, feelings in the body. So very, yeah, even if it has this spiritual and energetic thing, it's still very much grounded in the real. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, what makes quantum healing special is the intersection of these different areas. If you have anything to add.
I call it, I merge science and spirituality to guide
Mhm.
people through the transformation. So yes, it's very scientifically proven methods and based in brain science, neuroscience, positive psychology, quantum physics, really understanding, that the change happens when you are observing. If quantum experiments is the idea of it, that your experience is changing by you really observing the transformation um, between the conscious, subconscious, and the superconscious elements. So 3 elements are necessary for you to really shift things. And we, with quantum healing, there is a way to, of course, shift the mental element, the beliefs, right? But then the emotional expression is attached to the mental. And then the energy shift. So everything is interconnected and really entangled. But
Mm.
quantum healing allows you to follow those steps and clear it through all levels of your being.
Mm. Yeah, I do want to get into the intricacies of the quantum healing experience, but before we get into that, I'm curious to know a little bit more about if there are any stories that you could share of transformation that you've experienced or maybe your clients have experienced that you'd want to share with a neurodivergent audience.
Okay. So the first time I was going through quantum healing experience, and it's a sequence of 5 sessions. With the IMAP, I remember very well at that time I struggled a lot with overthinking. Like I would go to bed and it would take 2 hours for me to fall asleep, playing different scenarios of the conversations or situations in the day. worrying, what could I have said better or whatever, things like that. After the IMF session, that is all about rewiring your brain. I went to sleep and my head was quiet. I'm like, is this even possible? Like, there was no constant chatter in my mind. It felt so different and familiar and pleasant, Only to recognize that was significant piece. Kind of restructuring that internal dialogue, the negative self-talk, into more positive, was a major change for me personally. I had people going through this experience used to have migraine pains, and after this session, that stopped, showing how physical is connected to the mental deeply. I had clients who healed cancer at the physical level, and really, it's one of the magical stories, really. After a few sessions, we had specific session for the cancer, and the person's PSA level dropped from 211 to 32 in a week's time. So the
Wow.
cancer cells, and in 2 months he was in remission. So it just, explaining how the mind, thoughts, your thinking patterns, your beliefs are connected to your body, how your body responds to your thinking. And a lot, with quantum healing, a lot can be done. Relationships can shift. Really, some deep spiritual experiences can happen as well. Understanding, that connection to your soul, and allowing that to be. Understand that you basically, probably is not everybody's case with neurodivergency, but particularly my daughter, simple example. At a math class, there's a task, right, to read the text and then 2 steps mathematical equation needed to get to the answer. And she reads the text and she's like, 12. I'm like, how did you get there? And I'm calculating and the answer is 12. For me, it means that she's basically channeling the information. She's receiving that knowledge without learning. And that's what advanced brain is doing. It's processing the information on multiple levels. So recognize this as it is a powerful system that you have. You only need to master it and understand how it works, and not be attached to our society standards where you're measured by certain, you are put in a box and this is not right way to do, and so on, so on. Let go of those things. I think the system is outdated.
Yeah. There's a lot of improvements that can be made in the world for sure. And particularly when it comes to neurodivergent experiences. Um, it's interesting the channeling of the math question answer, because I can relate. I definitely had some similar experience like this in my I don't know if it was middle school or high school days, but uh, basically an answer just came intuitively and it happened to be right, and there was
Yeah.
no conscious processing of
Mhm.
it. So why do you think that we're not able to do this all the time? Like, if we can have that level of connection that is accessible, why aren't we always there effortlessly?
We are being trained out of it through a school system. That's my opinion.
Oh, wow.
Because look, and I think it was NASA that did this research. I'm not sure. I've seen it somewhere. Like, they are testing the genius level in children. So the young children are operating on the genius level, about 90 something percent of the kids. Immediately they start school, with every year that number is reducing until they finish high school, and there's like a couple of percentage left of that genius in the students. So we are being trained to think in a linear manner, just like it's normal, understood, and accepted by society. ADHD brain is thinking in quantum realm. It's thinking in multiple dimensions, so to speak. There is no linear sequence. It's like jumping up and down and putting things together, at least in my experience. So it is a more advanced way of doing things. But because we are told that we're not, like, we are doing things wrong, that's first element. The school expects you to get things correctly, so you're afraid to make a mistake. That's why we lose the trust. And nobody's teaching about intuition, because that inner knowing is present. You know, if those simple techniques like muscle testing, your body knows, your system knows the answers in general. Is that connection. So I like to explain this concept. So we have conscious, subconscious mind, and most people are familiar with that model. But if we talk about superconscious, which is the spiritual element or your soul, your subconscious is the program that's running your system, right? And a lot of information is being processed at the subconscious level, and only tiny bit you receive at the conscious level. So what happens, what is intuition for me, is really the superconscious elements, information from the superconscious, by passing through subconscious, reaching your conscious level. So almost like bypassing or going through those filters. So you download the information, because everything is available in the quantum field. I don't know if this makes sense. I can give different examples, to explain the model.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, because I've had my own spiritual journey with bipolar. I've been in altered states. I've experienced psychedelics, all of this. But to someone who's maybe, I don't know, 12, 16, 18, or maybe in their early 20s, and maybe hasn't explored spirituality in much depth, they've just gotten diagnosed with ADHD, for example. How would you explain the links between those different conscious realms and ADHD to them?
Okay. So younger kids, teenagers, they understand technology more than us old people. Um, uh, I'm observing my kids, sometimes playing games. They're very open to the idea. Like in the game, you go through the portal to another world. That's okay. That's normal for them. They are able to comprehend that. Computer, for example, if you understand how the computer works, there is a hard drive that all the programs are written. There is a screen that you can see and use the program to certain level, but you cannot reprogram the hard drive just by opening the app, let's say, okay? So what happens when you plug in internet connection to the computer? You're able to do so much more. You're able to access information, vast information that's available around the world. So what normal people brain does with the computer without the internet. What's programmed is kind of perpetuating that information, or like, connecting some elements there, and that's how they're thinking. ADHD brain is having access to a lot of elements outside that system. And that's why it's distracting. That's why you can't focus, because this is interesting, another piece comes in. So you are being distracted in that sense, but you're curious because it's like useful and important information for you at the time to explore and absorb. So you're taking in different elements simultaneously often, because you have access to that wide world web of information.
Mm, mm-hmm.
As well, that includes, emotions, other people's emotions. So there are kind of uncomfortable expressions of that. That's why you need to master how the system works. And that's why we kind of feel very sensitive and picking up on other people's energy, and it's hard to, anxiety comes in and so on. So you need to explore and understand how it works to learn, but there's nothing wrong with that processing, because like I said, it's more advanced way of receiving and processing information, and you can do things faster. You can figure things out in more advanced way than anybody else can. You're more creative, most likely, as long as you accept that and you don't judge those experiences.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it, kind of using the computer and internet
Mhm.
metaphor. And it's
Yeah.
not that there's any better or worse. It's there's just the learning how to master your
Yeah.
own programming. Because of course, yeah, we can be distracted, but there's a good reason behind that distraction if you
Yeah.
can kind of be more compassionate with yourself around that.
Right. And of course, that compassion needs to come from the environment as well. Your parents, your
Yeah.
teachers, they have that wider understanding, then they can hold space for your experience and not, push the judgment on you, creating very unuseful emotional patterns there.
Yeah. Yeah, and hence where kind of the programming from the school systems and society and all that is a big part in
Very big.
not just creating the traumas, creating the programming that kind of loses the trust in the intuition and the inner gifts that we kind of just need to reconnect to if we want to really master our brain and improve our experience of life, as well as kind of heal some of those wounds that have been caused because maybe we've misinterpreted um, or whatever it could be.
Yes. And as kids, we have a certain level of perception and we internalize a lot of that judgment, especially if you're sensitive to other people's emotion. I know growing up, like I could feel anger in people, and if whatever I say and they get angry, my internal thinking would be like, oh, I did something wrong, I'm bad. When you really understand as an adult, their anger had nothing to do with me. It was their own trauma that they couldn't heal. So, and of course, it takes some level of maturity to reflect that way. But that's why it's so important for parents and teachers to be aware of that, to hold a positive space for younger kids with ADHD or other
Yeah,
neurodivergent
and
conditions.
just kids in general, because
Right,
regardless of
exactly.
whether where someone is on the journey of developing ADHD or having it, being born with it or not, um, we can be traumatized throughout our development, and it is said to be a contributing factor.
For sure.
I'm a big believer in that as well.
Mm.
So, can you tell me a bit more about your personal journey of transformation and a little bit more about what you do now?
Yeah, you know, where do I begin? I think all these experiences of me not fitting in, being different, thinking different, led to all this lifelong journey of trying to understand the psychology, understand why I function this way. And at the beginning, it was like, I need to fix myself. That was the attitude because of the judgment in the environment and so on. until I started learning that maybe there is nothing wrong with me, and I'm just, processing it differently. I have different perception of things, and accepting me for who I am. That was a major piece. I know early in the childhood I was very intuitive, but it was not acknowledged. So I really shut down all the inner knowing. And to the point that I lost my self-confidence and trust completely. Going through school, university, going to the exam and test, and I feel I know the answer, but I don't trust that knowing, so I choose another answer. This is how I failed through life, again, reaffirming the I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm not good enough, all that. So it was a difficult journey of self-exploration at the time, until I really discovered the methods that I apply now. You
Yeah,
wanted to jump in, I see that.
you've talked about quantum healing as one of the major pieces in your journey. Uh, what else? What other methods or what other
Yeah.
names of different tools have been a part of your journey?
Okay. So first of all, I was going through, self-help books, courses, whatever, positive psychology, reframing my negative thoughts into positive, which now I understand how much sugarcoating that is. It's just covering it up and not really dealing with the negative expressions. I explored EFT tapping. I still think is a powerful method to release the emotion. I explored RTT, rapid transformational therapy, which I would say triggered my spiritual, awakening at the time. My all kind of, affirmations, binaural beats, all that brain science kind of based frequency technologies and stuff. And each element was significant in some way, improving. I went to do like cold showers, fasting, all, exploring what are the ways to tap into that flow. But really testing on myself. There was a period that I was like, doing this and that and whatever possible. Meditation, of course, meditation is the core of all that, finding that presence. But it was a gradual journey for me, little by little, adding new methods, new experiences. But really, quantum healing was something that accelerated my journey exponentially. Yeah.
Incredible. I want to circle back to what you said about your spiritual awakening related to RTT. Can you share what that experience was like?
Yeah. So at the time, I was still like questioning, what am I doing in life? What's my purpose? Knowing at the same time that I have to do something big. I discovered RTT as a training for practitioners, and I thought if I learn that, then I can be somebody in this world. So I went for an individual session, hypnotherapy. First time, I had no idea what to expect, and it was really interesting experience. I explored where was my confidence blocked, and again, very metaphorical way, I unplugged that, and really kind of after the session, I came outside, and as if everything kind of felt different. Colors were more vibrant, the emotions, like everything felt sharper than before in my experience through all senses. And I was like surprised what's going on and how awesome this is. Every day I started like a lot of walks in nature in the forest and asking questions in my mind and immediately receiving the answers the same day, whether through thought, through like a message on the YouTube video or anywhere, social media, like everything became a way of understanding and receiving the information. It's hard to explain for somebody who have not experienced things like that, and of course everybody goes through a different journey, but it became like I asked a question, at the end of the day there is an answer for me somewhere, somehow coming. I was journaling a lot at the time, so even now looking back at those, what I've written in the past, it's ridiculous how many synchronicities are going, step by step to really get to where I needed to be, evolve, and yeah, it was magic.
Yeah, it seems quite magical. It sounded a lot like a psychedelic experience, to be honest. And I know that
And
there's a lot of intersection between psychedelics and spiritual awakenings and peak experiences of flow and all sorts of things happening in the brain after these really big kind of transformative experiences that really rewire, yeah, how we see the world and how we are able to download from the environment and process differently. And from there, I think there is no looking back.
no,
Once we kind of see a new way of seeing things, there's no going back.
you can't unsee or unknown what you know. Yeah, and yes, the brain has the capacity to get into those altered states without any external substances. And I know that
Mhm.
it's easier for many people to like, yeah, ayahuasca, mushroom, whatever journeys they do. Um, and at the time I was like curious, exploring other people's experiences, how they are sharing their story with that. I'm like, I'm doing the same thing with quantum healing. So that was really interesting reflection. And yeah, I had, some clients telling me that in the session, like, this felt trippy. And it's funny for me because, yeah, you get into that state. And as long as you feel safe in the environment, in those experiences without any judgment, I mean, you can really do deep inner work um, through this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So with quantum healing, if somebody wants to find out a bit more, find out if it's for them or not, what what would they go through? Or do you have any resources for them to check out or any things that you want to share here?
So I think if you really are curious, the best way to explore this is to just have a call with me. Have a free 30 minutes introduction call. You can, through my website, you can also find more details about it, some testimonials or articles about this work, qheal.life. You can check that. And really, if you're curious, I think the one-to-one conversation is the best way to determine whether it is a fit for you. Because I like to feel into people. So I'm pretty sure that others would resonate with that, especially in neurodivergence space. Uh, Often, you're guided to take a step. Um, and yeah, there is information to explore through my website or on Facebook. Reach out if you connect, with me if necessary, and that is a lot. Yeah.
Sounds good. And we'll have all of the links in the notes to connect with Agne and go to the website. One of the questions that popped up in my mind, something that makes me curious, is where is the world at the moment in terms of quantum healing being known? Like how mainstream or how not mainstream is it? And I ask
Mhm.
this question because a lot of people have reservations around things that are quite new or different, and I just kind of want to break some assumptions about this, and yeah, maybe encourage more people to experience and see for themselves.
Mm-hmm. So just like a time frame, this method, my mentor was developing or started developing around 40 years ago. So it's been kind of building into the structure that I have now. I also like with every client, I recreate new processes and so on. People are more and more open to quantum healing and to alternative solutions, medicine, whatever you call that. Because you know, when they sit in therapy, like talk therapy for a decade, and come to me and say, like, in 3 sessions, I was able to shift something that 10 years of therapy couldn't. They see results that are fast. They see feedback of others. People are opening up for, you know, different ways of exploring that. So I'm really happy about that. Talking about quantum healing specifically, this method that I'm using is unique. And like I said, just a couple of people who are certified to do this at the time, at the moment. There are other modalities with, they use the same name, or, you know, quantum healing, hypnotherapy is a different purpose, different process. So there are different methods still using the same word name as a concept in general. That's why I kind of shifted to advanced quantum healing as this modality. I think, you know, whether they are open or not depends on their journey. If they are not ready, they are not ready. That's okay when the time comes. But if you're curious to explore, just reach out.
It sounds like one of the advantages of advanced quantum healing is just the sheer speed at which it can get people results. And one of the things to really be on the lookout for is to not confuse this particular advanced quantum healing with something else that is maybe just classic hypnotherapy with maybe a few other elements, just branded as quantum healing, if I understood you correctly.
Yeah, so, you know, by now, quantum healing as a name is used for different brands. And there are healers who are really working only energetically. So the client is not experiencing directly everything, but it goes through the practitioner. You can call it quantum healing because they are still operating at that realm, right? But just be aware that this is a different method than what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So it's important to know that there are different brandings of methods using the same words, quantum healing, and they might
Right.
not actually be the same process.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're curious about this particular process with me, reach out personally. That's the best way.
Reach out to Agne. Um, you said that something special about this process was that the person who is on the receiving end of it is actually experiencing it in their body. What does that look like? Like, what would someone's experience feel like?
All right. So quantum healing that I'm guiding is based in neuro-linguistic programming. And we're exploring your internal perception of anything that's happening around you or inside of you through 5 senses. So you will, my job is to guide you using specific language patterns, but you are the one experiencing it. Whether you see the visuals, whether you feel physical sensations or receive the audio messages sometimes, you are the one experiencing it. And it happens as a conversation in a session. I'm guiding, I'm getting feedback, then I'm guiding you like every step at a time. So it's a very dynamic process. I'm not really projecting onto you. I'm not telling you what to see, what you experience, what it means. I can suggest some ways of understanding what's going on because I can, see more from the energy perspective. But you are the one experiencing it, and it feels like really you are the one doing the work, which I love. I don't really, I'm able, but I don't enjoy so much to, do people heal remotely or whatever, for them to shift and be unaware. I think it's the significance of this is bringing every step to their awareness so that they feel empowered, so that they have the tools to, address anything that comes up for themselves.
So it's more about being the mirror, holding the space, and guiding the process so that the person who is going through the experience gets the downloads, the messages, the insights, and that is what kind of rewires the brain, heals some wounds, and helps us see the world in a different light.
For sure. And, I usually say all the answers are inside of you because it's not up to me to tell you what to do, how to show up. I ask questions. I think the core and the most powerful expression of quantum healing is asking questions and noticing how those answers come to you from within. That's why, like, my job really, my mission is to empower people and to show the magic that is within them. I'm not here, showcasing like how cool I am, I can heal you. I don't like even the name healer. My job is to heal myself so that I can hold space for you, of course, with high frequency, but for you to tap into those experiences internally for yourself. So you are both in charge, in control, and experiencing the process.
That's it's a beautiful way to put it. As we wrap up the episode, is there anything on your mind that you want to share that you maybe haven't shared yet?
Well, I think the only thing that comes up right now is really the world is going through really big shifts. And I think every individual will have their own experiences and challenges. I see more of a collective energy shifts and transformations. But everybody needs to take responsibility for their experience and really go through that healing journey. If we talk specifically for neurodivergent people, you are here for a mission, and you have these skills or superpowers for a reason. You are like part of that evolution that is still shifting somehow. So taking responsibility and recognizing and learning how your system works, noticing your thoughts, your emotions, your body signals, will help you master yourself and be empowered and lead by example. This new generation of children, I believe most of them will have this diagnosis, if you want to call it. And I think this is just how the humanity is evolving in that direction. So we need to learn, master, and teach others how to.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to reframe neurodivergence from being a limitation to rather being an evolution and something to learn how to master rather than necessarily break free from or be kind of having negative feelings about it.
Well, and I do understand that some cases are more severe, that they have bigger challenges
Mm,
living life.
mm,
And that's part of it. I totally acknowledge that. But
mm.
there are ways to improve, and it's a journey. And like I said, we are capable of so much more than we have been conditioned to believe. So,
Mm. Yeah. And perhaps the bigger the perceived limitations, the bigger the potential of the superpower. It's
Yes,
proportional, good or bad.
yes, totally.
Incredible. Well, Agne, thank you so much for being here. Um,
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants to get in touch, we'll have the links to your website or other pages in the show notes. And if anybody is curious about exploring advanced quantum healing with Agne, the best way to do that is to book a free one-to-one call and have that conversation.
Yes,
Anything I
please.
missed?
No, you are doing really well. Thank you for this
Thank
conversation. It was a pleasure.
thank you so much for being here, Agne. Yeah, much appreciated. Take great care.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.